What's up, everybody? Today is October 30th, which means that tomorrow is Halloween. And I think there are two distinct sides of the holiday of Halloween. Some folks over here who think that Halloween is the devil's holiday, and some over here who don't even think about Halloween and just actively participate in all aspects of it. And I think many people question what's the truth when it comes to Halloween and the Catholic Church. So let's discuss that today. All right, so let's first talk about the origins of the word Halloween. So Halloween, or All Hallows Eve, is the celebration traditionally of the holy people of God. Hallowed, or hallows, refers to holy, or, in the Our Father prayer, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Or it's referring to holiness. And so All Hallows Eve, or Halloween, is the vigil celebration of that holy day, otherwise known as a holiday. So Halloween has always been traditionally a holiday celebrating the holy people of God, the vigil before All Saints' Day on November 1st. So if that's the case, why have so many people become so convinced that it's a pagan holiday? Well, I think when you look throughout history, there are some pretty sensible reasons for it. And so the first one being that it coincides historically with a pagan holiday, a Celtic pagan holiday called Samhain. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Pope Gregory III in the year 844 AD moved the celebration of All Saints' Day to November 1st to coincide with the dedication of a chapel in St. Peter's Basilica, which he dedicated to all the saints in heaven. And so that is why we celebrate All Saints on November 1st, because that is the day of the dedication of that chapel. And so when many of those pagan Celtics were converted to Christianity later on, many of their traditions of that holiday that took place in a very similar time of the year ended up being transferred over to the Christian celebration of All Saints' Day. And so some of the traditions we get from those pagan traditions are, for example, jack-o'-lanterns. However, they used to be a lot more scary because they carved turnips rather than pumpkins. I'll include a photo here. And as well as bonfires. Bonfires actually come from the word bone fires, or in other words, the Celtic pagans would burn bones in fires as some sort of traditional kind of sacrifice, from my understanding. I'm not an expert on Celtic paganism, but so some of those things were brought over to Christianity and converted and given new meaning in our faith. But Celtic paganism isn't the only place we get some of those Halloween traditions. For example, from the French, we get dressing up for Halloween, and from the English, we get trick-or-treating. And so many of these traditions came from a variety of different places and then were combined when many of those Christian people, Catholic people, came from those countries and began to celebrate the holy day of All Saints together in America. So it's true, like I said, that a lot of our current modern-day Halloween traditions have their origins in pagan tradition. However, when they were converted to Catholicism, they were given new meaning that redirected the newly converted pagan people back to Christ. So, for example, things like skeletons were given new meaning as a reminder of our death, something that many Carthusian monks had used as a symbol, as a reminder that our time here on earth is temporary, and we are people of impermanence, in that we have something greater that we're working towards in the afterlife, and that is, of course, our goal to be saints in heaven. The traditions of dressing up for pagan holidays and carving jack-o'-lanterns was then converted to be a mockery of evil and death and of Satan himself. So people dressed children up in amusing evil costumes to mock those things that are evil. And of course, there's often been an abundance of ghostly and demonic imagery used in regard to Halloween, and that's often because of certain groups of people in the church having believed that the veil between the afterlife and earth here was thinner at certain times of the year. But of course, that's never been an official teaching of the Catholic Church. And I think it's fair to say that a proper understanding of theology tells us that that's not really how it works. So where does this common held belief that Halloween is somehow an evil holiday come from? Well, the unfortunate truth is that it often stemmed from people who disliked the Catholic faith. For example, when Catholics first started to come to America and celebrate Halloween, many of their Puritan neighbors didn't appreciate them celebrating any holiday, certainly not Halloween. Another example of this is the Reformation. Most of our Protestant brothers and sisters don't believe that saints should be venerated and often have a misunderstanding of what the Catholic Church actually teaches about its saints. Many Protestants spread the word that this weird holiday celebrating those who had gone before us was somehow pagan in origin. And it really shouldn't surprise us that today's modern culture of death has taken certain aspects of Halloween and twisted them into a very different thing than what they started out to be. So what exactly are we supposed to do as modern Catholics? Are we supposed to entirely blow off Halloween? Are we supposed to send our children out dressed as saints instead of the costumes that popular party stores sell? What's the solution? Well, to be entirely honest, I don't know that there is one simple solution for everyone. However, I think there are a couple of things that we can keep in mind when it comes to any difficult reality in the church and in the modern world today. The first being, whatever we do, whether it has to do with Halloween, Christmas, whatever it is, we have to glorify God, because that's ultimately what we're here for. And if we're supposed to be living to become the saints that we're remembering on All Hallows Eve, then we certainly should be doing that in the ways that we're celebrating the holiday. So whatever we're doing to celebrate should be surrounded in truth, beauty, and goodness. The second thing we should be making sure we do is reminding people of the holy people of God that have gone before us, the saints that we can look up to, and remind ourselves the mission that we're ultimately on, to get to heaven, to live with God for the rest of eternity. And with that, I think most of that can be done through our witness. And for each and every one of us, we're going to be called to witness to that reality in very different ways. And we just have to figure out what we're called to. And that's going to take a lot of prayer and discernment. And the last thing I think is we have to understand the reality of evil in today's world and not give in to the power of it. It's true that we live in a fallen world, but evil only has as much power as we give it. And so in the same way that we have to often be careful about the way we celebrate Christmas in our culture to make sure that we're reminded of the true reason for that season, I think it's true for Halloween as well. You know, there are certain aspects of the way that our modern culture celebrates Halloween that as modern Catholic Christians, we really probably shouldn't be participating in. And we have to make that decision and discern what those things are and avoid them so that we can become the saints that we're celebrating on that glorious day. And so those are my thoughts on Halloween. That's the history within the church. Let me know what you think.